Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How about you?
A bit jet lagged.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me
I
how
went
you.
to Switzerland on Wednesday and came back on Friday.
Wow. Yeah. How
Yeah,
how how was it?
it was fine. I mean, it was for a meeting. It went quite well, but uh,
That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I slept last night, so I feel better.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for all your gifts.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
No.
how you did you spend a lot of time gathering them
Well,
because
I,
they
I I think some of them I've had for a bit that I was supposed to send maybe before, but I finally, yeah, I got it all together and
oh
actually sent it off. So.
I thought there was some very interesting combinations like the KFC file log and the AOC socks.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
No,
Yes.
I
Okay.
put
All
there
right.
are a lot of connections.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some edibles that seem dangerously hot, but
Yeah.
I might approach them with a degree of caution. Also, I see you're still a Badescu consumer,
Yeah.
Mario Badescu. So no, I I I I was overwhelmed actually. So
Oh, well.
I'll gradually work my way through um, all of them. I particularly like the hat, though.
Yeah.
It's very
Good.
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 Um, so what's been up with you this week?
I same old, same old. I'm taking it pretty easy this weekend. Do you have Monday off or are you ready to go?
I do have Monday off, which is
Good.
good. Yeah, I
Good.
came from the airport. I came out to the country yesterday, and so I'm just going
Yes.
to take it easy. Um, I have to report for jury duty on Tuesday
Oh,
morning,
okay.
which is I don't quite understand because I'm over age and I've already written to them and
Oh, huh.
I've done it twice. I mean, I've actually
Huh.
served on
Yes.
juries twice,
Yeah.
so I think they'll probably dismiss me.
Right.
So
But you still have to go down and wait.
yeah, I have to go down.
Yeah.
And then I was supposed to have an MRI last Wednesday, but that's when I had to go to Switzerland. So I'm having an MRI this Wednesday to see
Yeah.
about my well, what's called spinal stenosis, which is
Yeah.
not I mean it's not fatal or anything, but if I do have it, then I'll probably start off getting is it
Uh-huh.
steroid injections? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and that might help.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of missed what's been going on in the world, I
Oh,
suppose.
I don't know if there's a lot new. I'm thinking about, so last week we were talking about Justice Alito and you were talking about, the ethics training that you're required to do. Here's the thing though. I was reading a thing that was basically explaining that if Alito was on a lower court, he would already be disqualified from anything related to January 6th. The problem is that rules for SCOTUS are merely performative because they set their own rules and they set their own penalties for violating those rules. They set their own. So for instance, he's probably, yes, he's required to take the same training that you do every year, but if he doesn't take it, he's the one who gets to decide what happens to him, which is nothing. So, I mean, and that's true
So
of almost anything.
unlike Donald Trump, they actually do have immunity, complete
Yeah, I mean,
immunity.
it's yes, and I think so. I
They're
mean,
above the law.
ultimately, I think it's going to take Congress and it's going to take a majority, and that's going to be hard. But to change the rules, though it may be constitutional, which will make it even harder. But yeah,
Well, yeah, anything that I think people want to change the Constitution, but I mean, I don't know my American history enough, I
Yeah.
mean, have there been like rogue Supreme Court justices in the past? Have there been ones that, I mean, I'm sure there've been ones that have been ineffective or venal or whatever, but
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
there seems to be we have two at least who are
genuine,
activists in
genuinely,
a
yeah, 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 yeah. And I do think that that's unprecedented. Um, where it's, or at least where it's that out in the open and they're still just kind of carrying on. I don't know. Yeah, it's. But no, I actually don't know the history enough of the history specifically of SCOTUS and who's. I mean, there have been, calls to step down, but who's? I don't know if I mean, people retire all the time, but um, yeah, no, yeah. And then the other thing that SCOTUS did was they ruled basically in favor of the gerrymandered district in South Carolina, which had already been ruled illegal, but it made its way up, and um, Justice Kagan wrote the dissent. Elena Kagan wrote the dissent. Alito actually wrote the decision. Um, Clarence
this
Thomas.
favors Republicans, does it? The
Yes,
jury,
I mean, yeah, 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 yeah. And particularly in this, and disproportionately disfavors Black South Carolina.
right?
I mean, that's what it's specifically unconstitutional, or the claim is. Um,
Yeah,
but I don't think that was particularly surprising. But again, even that's not Trump specific. That's not January 6th specific, but that affects election outcomes. And so, why is Alito writing the decision? I mean, again,
yeah,
I don't think. I mean, that just kind of quietly happened, and I don't think people make the connections enough to really be upset enough to really. And again, there's so much to be upset about. People are more interested in Trump's rally in the Bronx and again crowd size, which I don't care. I mean, I don't. I think um, I'm not surprised he drew a crowd at all. I don't care the actual size. I think. I don't know. He had a rally in.
well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I think that probably there's if he goes somewhere like the Bronx, it doesn't mean that everybody who turns out supports him. I mean, he's
Sure.
someone to look at, right?
Sure.
To say, I saw him in the
Yes.
flesh,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, he looks great, he looks terrible, his wife
Sure.
wasn't there,
No, sure, sure,
whatever.
sure.
It
Yes.
doesn't mean they were all waving flags. It was that something happened in the hood,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, 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 yeah. And no, I don't know. Again, I think even in Blue New York, I think there are probably people who do, well, or at least I don't know. No, I guess more interesting to me though is he held, this whole thing where he said he's basically soliciting big energy money and saying, I'll give you anything that you want in a very blatant, I mean,
yeah,
way that I mean, again, I think in the past would be so shocking that no one would do it that out in the open, but so much is going on, so many things are shocking. Um, I don't know.
and it seems to be that it's that neither Alito nor Senator Menendez have any shame in throwing their wives under the bus.
Yes. Um, no, and I think yes, and a lot of people defending Alito are pointing out that, well, how come there isn't as much criticism of Menendez? I think part of it is his wife may actually be involved. I think in her case, she is like material. I mean, again, I don't know between Alito and his wife, between Thomas and their wives, this whole notion that someone's wife isn't influential on them. First of all, I don't get that.
Yeah,
Of course, this is the person I don't know. Or I don't know how that squares with, again, their insistence on their importance of the strength of the nuclear family, the
yeah.
I mean, it's,
Your family values.
family values is everything, but I don't even talk to my wife. I don't know what she's doing. I know what that flag is about. I know that's what you'd have to talk to her. Who? I mean, like, what? So, I mean, that's, yeah, I don't, I mean, that's all seems really kind of just, it defies logic, but people just sort of accept that. Um, yeah. Yeah. And no, and this, this willingness to throw, yeah, uh, someone under a bus.
So the thing that I just have been reading, and I haven't finished it, but this was the headline, well, not the headline, but it said that in January, the World Economic Forum released a report showing that 1,490 international experts rated misinformation and disinformation the leading global risk over war, migration, climate
Wow.
catastrophe,
I mean,
which
that,
is scary.
that is, it's believable. Yeah, no, it's believable.
But I mean, does this mean people are less, well, I don't want to say intelligent, but more gullible? I mean, I think at any point in human history, don't you think the issue of gullibility is probably not, it doesn't change in cultures, or does it?
Um, I had honestly, I had hoped with the internet that it would, that people would develop ways of, yeah, no, it's interesting to me how tribalized it has become, and it can be, how information is shared, how it is consumed, how it is understood and processed, because I really did think we would have, I mean, no, I guess not necessarily, I mean, well, universal sources of information, but I thought that with a global system where things are documented, once it's on the internet, it's really on the internet, there's screenshots, it's there forever and all that, there wouldn't be ways to, at least in the long term, manipulate information. I thought, but it turns out the long term isn't even what's important. If a guy in Texas pays for robocalls that fake Joe Biden's voice in the New Hampshire primary saying don't vote, yeah, eventually he gets caught. Yeah, he's gonna get fined, I think $6 million. But what I don't, and to me, the that was a weird way. That was that. I mean, to me, that almost he jumped the gun, because now that's making people much more wary. But I, yeah, I think the misinformation can be disseminated very quickly by people who don't do a lot of fact checking. So whether starts with an account that says very clearly this is a parody, but then ends up getting shared by people who increasingly believe it as fact, whatever wild misinformation it is. Um,
Do they believe it as fact because it feeds into a, a belief system they already have, or positions that they already have,
yes,
because they
yes,
want to believe it, or do
yes.
they suddenly change their mind because they think this is true and what they thought before wasn't true?
I think it's well, I think it's a lot of confirmation bias. I also think yeah, no, and I also think some of it is really effective at manipulating, at making people question even things like basic science or what have you.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are more people now probably believe the earth is flat than any other time in the in the 20th century.
Hmm.
I think that there are people who hold to what you and I might consider to be almost absurd
Yep,
beliefs.
yep.
Um, and is that isn't because they've been shown proof, scientific proof. It's because of discussion, or it's been because of
Oh, well, they think they have. I mean, there are, so if you just let your YouTube play and just let it like autoplay in the background for like 24 hours, no matter what your original search was, even if it was something fairly reasonable, but especially if it's something like weather or something like sounds fairly innocuous, it will
yeah.
almost immediately, without you adding any additional search queries, and irrespective of whatever you've searched in the past, will almost immediately take you to chemtrails, and then like flat Earth, and then Illuminati reptile lizard people. I mean, like really, I mean, very, very quickly. And it's because extremism gets clicks and views, and it becomes self-perpetuating. But these hours and hours and hours long videos that someone has created pretty cheaply, but with like very low budget, but computer graphics that will show you how the Earth is flat or hollow or whatever they're. I mean,
Okay.
so I mean, I think, and I don't think it's these kind of conspiracies aren't aimed at people who are really high information. They're aimed at people who kind of will take surface things, and if you take point A and point C and you ignore point B and you draw that straight line for them, they're going to go, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. And so, and what scares me is that those conspiracy theories are pretty out there, and the people who really want to push the ones that are harmful, dangerous, that can get people to harm one another and in society, they know that they can capitalize on those really kind of wild, almost unbelievable ones, because they've got a market of people who are pretty gullible. And so then when Trump starts saying they tried to assassinate me, I mean, that sounds outlandish. But Fox News runs with it, and then that becomes, it's just once a lie repeated enough times becomes the truth, and it becomes, I mean, it's not only confirmation bias, it confirms what I want to believe, but it's what I'm hearing in my community if we're all watching Fox News, and so we're all agreeing it must be true.
But it also, I mean, I think all of these theories or beliefs, they also, I mean, part of the structure of them is that the rest of the world is in a way in a conspiracy. In other words, people, scientists, universities,
Yes.
the press.
Yes.
There's a huge conspiracy
Yes.
to believe that the Earth is round. In other words, because they know that they're a minority, right?
Right.
Even as they believe it.
Right.
But it's not only that they believe the Earth is flat, but they believe that this whole round Earth idea,
Yes,
which is pervasive in history, and that somehow, that billions of people are wrong.
Right. No, and that actually, well, two things about that to me. One, it in many cases it leads them to a sense of elitism, of we're in the know, but we know the real thing. We're the in club who knows what they're. I mean, again, then they use language like the Matrix and red pill and blue pill and sheeple, and so like they're all diluted, but we're the only ones who really know what's going on, and they feel good about that. That makes them feel special. And then the other part, and so I mean, and I think that's for some of them. That's for when it's very clear that they're in the minority. But other, I would say, I mean, to me, anti-Semitism is a form of conspiracy theory. They are genuinely believing that they are in the majority, and that wink, wink, there are more of us than you think. And I think that's true of a lot of their conspiracies, is that they think they're a larger majority than they are.
Okay.
And they operate on that. Yeah. No. Well. Okay, I'll ask you this though, because I was in a seminar with a guy who this is kind of his area, and media consumption, and he admitted, he oversees the website where they really kind of analyze where the media falls, left, right, center, and there are streams on both ends, and really tries to like identify the sources of information that are as close to accurate as possible. But he admits, and so no, they've actually developed this app, and it will show you based on what you read. It will give you counterpoints to read. And he admits he doesn't use the app that he helped create because he doesn't want to. When he sees the articles and even just the headlines of the opposing views that counter what he wants, he'd rather just stay in his bubble. Like he, does that? And so I'm asking you, I try to consume a diet, including things where I'm like, ugh, this is going to be like chewing sawdust, Fox News, but I'll read the article. I won't watch them. I won't watch the talking heads because they're just paid to like hype things up. But like, I mean, Fox has news, I mean, a division separate from their editorials, and I read it whether I want to or not because it's important to see what kind of language they're using, what they're, I don't know. I mean, do you think the average person chooses to?
I would say that my main exposure to the right wing opinion is the New York Post, which I read often if I'm having lunch at my desk at work.
Yeah,
I look at the Post. I'm basically, I mean, I do it for amusement, but I also I also do it because I want to be reminded that it's almost absurd that every single kind of report about the president's speech in the New York Times is reported in the New York Post in such a way that he lied, or in other words, it's interesting because it's the same piece of news.
Right.
But it's filtered in a completely different way.
Yes.
And this is it's totally pro-Trump, even if he falls asleep during his trial.
He's doing that on purpose. He's
doing that on purpose. It's a signal. They loathe Harry and Meghan.
Yep.
They love the rest of them.
Yep.
I mean, it's just very, very, very clear.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's inexorable. It's totally expected. In other words, and it's hard hitting. I mean, if you have that as a steady diet, right?
Right.
Then I can see that you're in that loop, right? Yeah. I mean, it explains. It doesn't say something didn't happen if it did. It just explains it in a different way. It looks at it in a different way. You're like, there is a conspiracy against Donald Trump, or any small error that's being made by a prosecutor or somebody like that is magnified, and it becomes, a reason to believe that there is a conspiracy against Donald Trump.
Right. Yes. No. And I mean, I hate. You remember the first time Kellyanne Conway uttered the words "alternative facts," and she was so roasted, but she really put an accurate label on how you can spin it and make whatever the story is you want it to be, make whatever the story should be a non-story if you want it to be, and often just in the guise of just asking questions. We're not making accusations. We're just asking questions. We're just supposing what if Yeah, no, I don't know. Whatever.
I will say this though, that I do have to remind myself that whenever there has been a story in the New York Times about something, for instance, in the art world, that I know about,
yes,
I'm aware that it's not ever entirely accurate.
Yes.
It's not made to be inaccurate.
Right.
But the process of reporting,
yes,
they haven't had access to everybody.
Yep.
They've had
Yep.
a preconception about
Yes.
what it meant.
Yes. Yes.
So I am also aware when I read the Times or when I watch MSNBC or whatever, that they actually they have a liberal bias, which is quite
Yes.
strong.
Yeah.
So everybody's doing it.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, and again, I feel that most acutely with the ageism that I do see kind of aimed at both guys. Yes, we've got two older guys running for president. Yeah, if they both pause during a speech, I mean, I mean, I don't know why any of that's being reported. If I give a 2 hour training, I'm gonna stumble possibly up to 9 times, 9 times. I mean, it's
Yeah, you're getting old. You must
no.
no,
I also
and you
just meant
probably forgot something,
yeah,
right?
no. I often and I let people know, especially if I'm in a training. Give me a second. I'm collecting my thoughts. I want to make sure I don't miss something, and then I
You may
take a.
have to read your notes
I may have to
too,
read
right?
my note for a minute. I may have to. I don't have actually a teleprompter where it's I mean, like
Yeah.
the point being, we're all human beings, and what I see missing all around is just grace, is just giving someone. But then, does that mean you give grace to X, Y, or Z, or any kinds of? Yeah, then it gets very complicated because, um, MSNBC. No, they yes, they all have their bias, and I think it is important to pay attention to that filter. And I think what you said that's really important is, regardless of what perspective they're coming from, or even if they're neutral, they come in with a perspective. They come in, and this is something you taught me kind of a long time ago. And we come from a family of journalists, but half the story is already written. They already have the beginning, middle, end. If you're the expert being quoted, they're going to fish for your
Yes.
quote that fits their
Yeah.
narrative. And if your quote doesn't fit their narrative, they're not going to, so so
Yeah.
no matter how open, and again, their bias isn't towards anything political in this case. Their bias is towards getting the story that they had in mind. And so that right there is its own type of bias that really shapes
Yeah.
our media.
Yeah. I had an email um people I don't know. I don't even know if they're in America.
Yeah.
And they're clearly there was a big scandal to do with a Russian collector who used a Swiss guy as an advisor, and the Swiss guy would buy would buy a painting for $50 million and tell this guy he paid 70 million. I mean, it was
Right,
like
right, right.
the
Yeah, yeah,
guy
yeah.
made the Russian trusted the wrong person.
Yes.
He didn't know the market. He actually bought very good things. He paid way too much. It's a huge and so these were two very colorful people. It was in the press. So I got a request that they were making a documentary about this,
Right.
and um, they wanted me to appear on the documentary, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I said, I have nothing to do with it.
Right.
Um, I read about it like everybody else did. I
Right, right,
wasn't
right.
involved in it, and I don't want to be associated with it.
Yes.
And of course, foolishly, because I can't keep my mouth shut, I said something along the lines of, um, I think it would be more beneficial if there were documentaries made about art and artists rather than about, I mean, something like
Scandals.
that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So they immediately came back saying, well, we'd like you to tell us your point of view about this. We'd like you to, say what you'd like about this.
Okay.
And I said, no, because you're just going to splice that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
My face is going to be there,
Right.
whatever I'm saying.
Right.
And this goes to what you just said, which is that I've no control over who introduces me or what they say about me or how they edit me, because I've been misquoted in books. I mean, I don't make a fuss about it, but and then it's as you said, I know my I know how venal journalists can be because they want a story.
Yeah, yeah,
And they'll write the story, as you said, and then they'll get a blurry picture of somebody. If they can't get a picture of the corpse, they'll.
yeah.
And my dad told me, they used to use that the journalists used the pictures of their wives, and they put them out of focus if they needed a. No, they did.
I know, I believe you. No, I believe you. I mean, well, okay. One thing I think that's really important, if we're talking about it, is the media has not gotten more polarized, and in fact, if you look at like what the media looked like during the founding fathers and all that, it was 100%. I mean, just very, very, very blatantly biased. Almost all editorial. There was no journalistic ethics. There was no standards. There was no. It was just everyone who could afford a printing press printed what they wanted and their
Yeah.
position. And so, I mean, we're in a way, it's two things. We're moving in an area where it's becoming more dangerous, but we're also moving in an area where we co-create more standards, and I think over time that'll be important. But I think right now, again, we're also in an area where there are these very, very powerful tools. In the past, if you wanted to, whether it was for cyber crimes like scamming people for money, or whether to sow political chaos or discourse, you had to have at least some level of graphic design skills, some level of English language skills, some level. Now you can very just easily just put a couple of prompts into a thing, and they'll create whole thing for you, a whole video for you, a whole,
Yeah.
and that means two things. One, people who bad actors don't need the skill anymore, so more of them can do it, and they can do much more of it very easily and quickly. They can pump out hundreds and hundreds of
Right.
memes a
Yeah,
day.
and less expensively.
Yes, and very, yeah, and yes, and so that's why it's so dangerous. There's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, you used to have to find a millionaire who would sponsor a new newspaper that had your pumping your point of view, right? Your political
right,
point of view.
right,
But now you just need to hire a couple of kids with I don't know,
yeah, 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 and it's yeah, and who can search engine, and suddenly
and
it's
make some videos, I
yeah.
guess.
Okay, how's this? Okay, art imitating life, imitating art. So in 2011, Scarlett Johansson did a movie where she voiced an artificial intelligence software, like one of the, Alexa or whatever,
Yeah.
who becomes sentient. Fast forward to 2023, OpenAI goes into talks with Scarlett Johansson, asking her to be the voice of their
Yeah.
AI. She turns them down. Then they basically find, I don't know, another actress, but someone who sounds enough like her. And she's actually wondering if they used AI to spoof her voice, since that is something that is possible, and they are the AI company. They're claiming they used another actress, but either way, it's so close to her voice that even her family was confused and thought she had done this.
Yeah.
Multiple media sources reported that it was her. So she sued them. They took it down. Um, but she's now calling again. This is the same person who sued Disney and won, and Disney has probably some of the best entertainment lawyers in the world, but she sued them and won. So she's not someone who backs down, but now she really wants to take this on and say, I want to see, not just for myself, but for all actors, for
Yeah.
all people's images, I want to see transparency, and I want to see regulation in place. And so, I mean, basically, I'm saying ScarJo for president. Maybe not this year, but I really liked. She put out a really thoughtful message around. So the point being, she played a character. Now she's so strongly associated with this character that they tried to kind of make it art imitates life. She didn't want to participate in that, but now she's been drawn into this just because of the part she played, but she's
Yeah.
becoming a spokesperson for, and again, the use of AI was also part of the SAG contract that they were picketing for all of last year as well. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no, I,
The New York Times, when they reported this online,
yeah,
they actually had her the
oh,
comparisons,
yeah,
and I mean it sounded exactly the same. I
yeah,
mean it was
yeah,
I guess and years ago, someone with a hamburger commercial tried to copy John Wayne's voice or something. But I mean,
Yes.
that was, that kind of thing got shut down pretty
Right.
quickly.
Right.
I'm surprised. Well, I'm not really surprised, but the fact that somebody like that cannot protect her um her job. I mean,
Yeah.
that's her livelihood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And they're stealing it from her because I mean, I don't see it's any different from if somebody copied my book and just
Right.
and put their own name on it. I mean,
Right.
I just it's 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 not it belongs to her. And if she didn't want to do it, and she was very quick about saying she didn't want to do it, um, uh, then do you think she's going to win? I think
Yeah, I think she will, and I think, and I hope her high profile will get others to act and really take this seriously, because I think it's probably happening. Well, no, I know it is. It's happening to, well, it's happening to high school students whose classmates are creating videos of them, and they're really the laws are so far behind, and the people who could be regulating this are really focused on TikTok because who it's owned by rather than again the
yeah.
industry as a whole and what the tech where the technology is, not who the actors are, which
I think I have to say this as as an older person. I
Mhm.
think that the problem also is that the there are not legislators in Congress or the Senate who really understand this well
Yeah,
enough
yeah,
in terms what AI is and what So how can they create regulations when they have a very foggy notion of how this comes about?
right. Yeah, no, yeah, I think, and I mean, well, no, to me that's two things. One, and again, I don't want to tread into the area of ageism. I think it's fine that we have. I have nothing against career politicians. The fact that someone's been doing it for a long time doesn't automatically to mean I'm not necessarily in favor of term limits. I think some people are good at their jobs and they should continue to do it. They're effective, and that's okay. And I also think that there's an argument in a case for more young people getting involved in civic
Yes,
at all
absolutely.
levels. And even if these are the elected officials we have, even if they're not even the ones we most would want, but they're the ones we have, we still have a right to engage them and to educate them, to show up at their offices and to write letters and emails and phone calls that explain these issues to them and explain them over and over. Um, I mean, I try and take as many of those quick actions as I can throughout the year, but I think I think we can educate them because I don't think that they necessarily, you're right, I understand.
I mean, does it hurt when, I don't know if this is true, but whether somebody like Bruce Willis's family gives permission for
Mm,
his
yes.
image or his
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah.
to be reproduced in AI so that he can make another movie or something. I mean,
I no, and to me again, this comes into, and I think the first one, yeah, it was where it was legally licensed. It was Paul Abdul dancing with Fred Astaire, old footage of Fred Astaire in a Coca-Cola commercial, but completely licensed by his family. I think people have rights to, I think that that's, I mean, I'm okay with that if the family's okay with it, but I would obviously always caution families to not go for a money grab and just to to really consider someone's legacy, and are you really gonna but
yeah,
that's, I do think that that's their legal right. I also, I mean, well, Bruce Willis is alive, and that's, he may not have, but they have power of that. That gets very tricky. That also, that gets sad, but also they may need money for his care. They may, I don't know all the stories or the details of the specifics, and
yeah, yeah,
that's a really tough one, but I no, I think I actually ultimately a person or their representatives, I am 100% in favor of having the rights to license any way they want.
yeah.
Kiss,
I think it comes down to, I mean, it's, there are legal structures that are not that complicated. where people can say yes or no, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they can say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, I want some money, you can have my voice.
Yes.
Or no, I don't want the money, you're not allowed to use my voice, right? I mean, that's,
Right. Um, so okay, no, this was yeah. I don't talk about this very often because I'm not. This is awkward. But yeah, I was a child model, which I can remember when ads that I knew I had posed for the local regional like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania turned up for completely different stores that I hadn't heard of in Canada. And that
yeah,
the fact that I mean really and I went to my agency and they were like no you signed a thing and yeah it's legal but that's me basic misunderstanding of how contracts work and whatnot but the sense of violation specifically that it had crossed a border that I had never even that I that my image could be used in a for to promote something and I'd never even heard of them just felt so strange to me. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
one
yeah,
thing if
yeah.
it's in a Pathmark ad that's exactly what I signed up to be in, but it's another thing if it's a yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that must have been a very strange feeling,
But
right?
I mean, but no, I mean that is how contracts work. Just yeah, I'll let you go. Kiss, they've now basically licensed their digital avatars. Originally, they were going to kind
Who
of
has?
Kiss, the band, the face Kiss, Gene
Oh,
Simmons.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so they were going to pay other guys to dress up in the same because they've already
Yes,
long since copyrighted the four characters that are separate from them as human
right.
beings and other people have come and gone in the band and they still wear the star and the
Yeah.
hat and all that. But they were going to hire other guys and just completely all four of them would retire. But now they're just going to use digital avatars because they can do it. I mean, it's a completely controlled digital, but 3D.
So they were actually very, very clever originally to
Yeah,
disguise themselves
because they
in
create.
such a
Yes,
way that didn't age.
yeah. And does it? Yeah, I mean, I mean, we have. Well, I'm not going to talk about Gene Simmons or Kiss or some of their other, but they're clever. They're market. No one can ever question that their marketing savvy is. They were. Oh, they know what they're doing there. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. All right. Have a good
Have a,
week. Yeah,
I
you
love
too.
you,
I
Bob.
love you.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend. How's the weather? Are
It's
you out
good
going
here. Yeah,
outside?
no, it's good. How about you? It looks a little windy right now, but it's yeah, no, I'm gonna go out to a music festival and yeah.
Okay.
All
Take
right.
the doggies out.
Yes, I will. I do. Yeah. All right. Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.